pretty good so far. I've hit the month mark, and I feel like I'm doing a decent job at the very least. So, thumbs up.
Hey, no better judge of character than yourself, right?
Yeah, totally.
You remember in like high school or college where like the professor would be like, "All right, you're gonna grade your own paper."
I never had anyone
You know?
do that. I
Oh,
wish. God, I wish.
oh.
I'd just give myself an A. Who fucking cares?
Well, okay. Well, sometimes it'd be like pass it to the person to your right, and then they'd grade it. But
Sure.
it's just like that's how jobs should be. You should self-evaluate.
I
Um,
mean, I feel like a lot of jobs still do some amount of self-evaluation stuff. It just usually doesn't feel like it matters.
Yeah, I think that's the crux of it, right? Like they do want you to think a lot about how well you're doing, but it's not going to affect anything
Yeah. So it doesn't.
ultimately. So why would I think about it?
Yeah. Why would I spend my precious brain power on that?
Yeah, I could be spending it on other things. I don't know. Video games. Video games. Hello, everybody.
Video games. Hello and welcome to the Audio Games Podcast. I'm Neil.
And I'm Matt.
That
Welcome
was a good
back.
segue. That was a good segue.
Yeah,
I saw it
you
coming,
handed.
but I was like, oh yeah, here it
I
comes.
I knew that you set that up, and if I didn't take the bait, then you would just use it yourself, and I couldn't have that.
Fair, fair. Oh
But
boy. Well, I gotta ask you a quick question, Matt.
sure.
We know that I am the bringer of bad news. Should we just get that the fuck out of the way?
Oh man, I don't know. Like right out the gate is a good idea.
Okay.
Um,
I'll put it off for a little bit.
you know what? How
But,
about how instead of going into what we played or the news, how about I start off by saying that I saw the Minecraft movie?
uh-oh.
Yeah, I saw the Minecraft movie, and the reasoning is this. Okay, I found out that Jason Momoa, one of the principal actors of the film,
Mm-hmm.
he actually invested a lot of his own money into it through his production company. So like he's actually a producer of the film and also an actor in the film. And I mean, I don't know how much you know about Jason Momoa, Neil, but I saw him in
Enough to
Aquaman.
know that he's been in a bunch of nerdy things.
Sure, like principally when I think of Jason Momoa as an actor, I think of Aquaman, okay, the DC
Sure.
film. And in that film, it's literally just he stands there looking muscular for most of the film, and he doesn't even really have that many lines. People talk around him, and sometimes he grunts and nods, and sometimes someone busts through a wall mid conversation, and then he has to start fighting someone, and that's just kind of the impression that I had of Jason Momoa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the kind of like bit role that he plays is that like he just kind of has to look ripped and be there. Not a lot of acting involved. So when I heard that he spent a lot of his own money on this, I was like, okay, well, if you're gonna put your own money there, then obviously you're gonna bring like your top tier acting skills to the table. You're not gonna like half ass it. And so I was like,
Sure.
okay, I kind of want to see what like full cylinders Jason Momoa looks like, and it's good. I
Yeah.
am I am very surprised to report that it's incredibly good. He kind of stole the show. Like Jack Black, he's in there being Jack Black, but I think that Jason Momoa's character was probably the most interesting and the one with the most complete arc. Um, so anyway, zoom out a little bit. The film is a Minecraft film. All right, like there's no beating around the bush. Like it's a Minecraft film. But I also found out it's directed by the same person who made Napoleon Dynamite, and there are a lot of like lead up sections and cutaways to the real world that Steve was originally from, that the other characters are from, and those sections are so Napoleon Dynamite, and it's really funny. Like I could, take or leave the in the Minecraft universe aspects, but all the things that are happening in the real world were actually really funny. Like I was laughing.
Okay.
So,
You
um,
didn't find just like all the million different Minecraft references and stuff to be too off-putting?
I mean, I think the most in your face that the film actually gets is just Jack Black saying things that you wouldn't expect an adult man to say. In reference to Minecraft, like, you know, all the memes,
Mm-hmm.
the I am Steve, the Flint and Steel, you know, diamond armor, full set. Like hearing someone say that out loud is second only to seeing someone put on the very cubic looking diamond armor, and it's just like it's clearly not meant for anybody who's not also a cube to wear. It was really awkward seeing Jack Black wearing Minecraft armor. It's like literally a cardboard costume. Um, but no, it was good. I had a good time. I don't regret it. Uh, yeah, it's weird. I didn't. I mean, okay. Like I said, I went to go see it because I found out the Jason Momoa thing. I did
Mm-hmm.
feel that I had some obligation as a member of a video game podcast to be the half that actually goes to see this. You know, we've watched all the other shitty video game movies, right? We watched the Monster Hunter film.
We
You
did.
know, we watched In the Name of the King, Dungeon
That
Siege
one's real
Tale.
fucking bad, yeah.
Yeah, it's legendarily bad, that one. Minecraft, surprisingly, a pretty damn decent movie. If I
You know,
have
I
to
never
admit.
got around to watching the Assassin's Creed movie. That one's supposed to be really bad too.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't. I hear the Prince of Persia ones were okay. I know.
Ones? I remember there being one. Oh god, did they make another?
I don't know. I'm just talking off the cuff here. I don't know if they made more than one. I just kind of assumed because of the number of Prince of Persia games that there was maybe more than one.
Fair, fair, fair.
Um, yeah, and then you know we had the Lara Croft Tomb Raider movies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those I heard those were okay as just action flicks.
I know I saw them all, but those were a long time ago, and I can only kinda remember the first one.
Okay, well that says a lot. Um,
Yeah.
okay. Well, anyway, um, when it comes to the Minecraft movie, I'd probably like I don't know if I can give it like a rating, but I will say that I went in very cynical and I came out with a smile on my face. I was like, "Oh, well that was fun." So, I rescind all of my previous vitriol leading into the Minecraft movie. I was unfounded. Didn't have faith in Mojang to create a film, but there you go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is probably gonna get the Oscar for best visual effects or something this coming year.
I don't know about that. I think what else is contending for that, right? Like, I mean,
I
if
don't
it's,
know yet.
I mean, listen, if Boss Baby can win Best Animated Film, then anything's possible. But I think it would have to be a slow year.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Huh.
Okay,
Well, what have you been
now,
playing?
no, we have the buffer now. I placed down
Oh,
the buffer.
now, okay, okay.
I've
Hey,
padded it
everybody.
out a little bit.
Hey, everybody. It's time for Bad News Corner.
Yep, bad news, Neil. Let's go.
All right. Bad news number one. Hey, did you know that video game sites have been kind of getting crushed under the heel of venture capitalism for the last, oh, I don't know, decade or so?
Well, yes, I did
Uh,
know that, but maybe our listeners didn't.
well, two more of them got hit this week as both Polygon and then about 3 days later, Giant Bomb both have basically been demolished to be turned into more of the slop houses that you wish you didn't see every time you type in a question on Google.
Yeah,
So that sucks.
it does. I all the more reason to listen to us instead. Haha. I mean, don't maybe I'm capitalizing on this a little myself, but you know, what do we have left, right? We've got Kotaku. That's wild.
I mean, Kotaku
Kotaku's
kind of went through that a while back too, just maybe not as bad as it feels like everyone in the last couple years did.
yeah, I mean, I don't feel like it was as hostile as a situation. I mean, listen, Kotaku has its own style of delivering news and their own beats that they like to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like those were basically unchanged. So, I don't know. Maybe they
Fair
stuck to the
enough.
style and like they gutted everybody, but they stuck to the writing style. Or I don't know. I'm not that close of a follower of what goes on with a lot of the media review sites. So,
Yeah.
but I do know that Giant Bomb that really sucks. Uh, they were very much like a community for the community, and
Well, it was one of those weird ones too, where if you've been paying attention to Giant Bomb, they're not much of a like video game site in the way that you would think of IGN or any of those.
yeah,
They
yeah,
weren't
yeah.
really doing news and stuff. They were extremely personality driven and oftentimes playing like older games and stuff like that and making shows out of it, not necessarily they're playing current games, don't get me wrong. They're talking
They
about
weren't
them.
cutting edge focused.
Yeah. But I guess they were also not PG-13 enough and said the F-bomb too many times for
What
their
do you think the
new
giant bomb
ownership to be
was?
happy with.
It was the giant F bomb,
Mhm. Mhm.
and now it's gonna be a giant what? G bomb?
Well,
Gosh, a
I
gosh
don't know.
bomb.
A lot of these sites as they've been destroyed have had a lot of the people kind of move on and make small things that people can more directly send money to with Patreon and stuff. I know like Waypoint does Remap now. Um, some of the people who left Giant Bomb a while ago made Nextlander.
Hmm.
But who knows what's going to happen with everybody in this current week here? Like how I don't know how much money people who like to support these, how many more of them people can support and still have enough money
Yeah,
for themselves the way the economy is going. So,
I think I do think that at least in the case of giant bomb, it wasn't something that they didn't see coming. Right? They kind of saw the writing on the wall for a while, and they, at least from what I read.
mm,
So
yeah,
I'd like to think
they
that
had
maybe
definitely been
there's
bounced around ownership a few times in the last 6 or so years.
yeah, and I'd like to think that maybe they have an idea of what they'd like to do, um, both on a business level or an entity level and on a personal level for all the people involved. I hope everybody lands safely, softly, and I mean, it's kind of indicative, right? Like me and Neil don't get paid for it. We're kind of doing this as a fun thing for ourselves. And maybe there's a reason why we are doing it for as a fun thing for ourselves instead of doing it for money. Because boy, does that sound like a bad place to be right now?
A hard one at the very least, yeah.
Very difficult, yes.
But whether or not you're in the media, if you're in video games themselves, it's been a rough bunch of years too. I'm sure you remember many layoffs over the last few years.
Oh,
Uh,
sure, sure.
and another bunch got hit this last week with places you might not really expect to see that happen. This came out of EA, specifically Respawn, which is one of the kind of subsidiaries of EA that everyone thought was doing really good work. They've been doing the Jedi, what was it, Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games, which both, as far as I know, did pretty well. A lot of people really like those games.
I know the sequel had like a real rough start because of a bunch of bugs and bad
That's true.
performance, but
I did hear about that as well.
I don't know
And
like how
and
that.
also the people behind Apex Legend and the Titanfall series, which Apex Legends was doing a lot of work for them. Obviously, it came out 5 years ago, maybe not as popular as it once was, but like Respawn seemed like a team that generally was doing quality work that everybody rated highly.
They were at the very least pulling their weight for the company.
Yeah, but
So
they're
did
also
they? Was there
shit
a
out of luck.
statement as to why they did that?
Not exactly. I know that they told us there were a few games that got canceled in the process of this. We don't have a lot of details about them, but rumor has it one of them was going to be an extraction shooter of some kind,
Oh
most likely
right,
in the
yeah, I heard about
Titanfall
that.
universe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Neil. Do we do I mourn that? I don't know if I mourn that.
Yeah, I don't think we really need another extraction shooter, but I
I
also
mourn
can't
the
help but
the
wonder, like, hey, were they told make an extraction shooter, and now after the marathon stuff that has come out about what that game is, and with how badly what was the name of that game that super didn't hit for Sony last year? So bad it like doesn't exist anymore.
Concord.
Concord. There you go. Uh, I can't help but think like maybe the company got cold feet after seeing some flops and the competition and saying, This is when we get this out, it's going to be too late. Let's cancel this." It just sucks that
Yeah.
they're also canceling a bunch of people's jobs in the process.
Um, yeah, we're living in an era of super games, you know. It's the idea is like you can't get into a space because there's no way you're going to tear the fans away from what's already established, like what they've already invested into, both monetarily and in terms of time. So the idea of trying to introduce something as a competitor into that space, it's you're kind of throwing away some money, basically. I would say. And this was also an issue with Sony. Remember when I was talking about like what their 4-year plan was for games as a service, and like they were planning on releasing like 12 games that were supposed to be games as service games. And it's you look at the library for the PlayStation 5 right now, it's just like, well, what do you have anyway, right? You're just gonna
Yeah,
release a bunch of free games and hope people buy battle passes and skins. Ugh. Anyway, indie games are great. I love indie games. But since we're hitting the news first, I did want to talk a little bit about some games that I'm pretty sure neither of us played because
hmm
I realized sometimes we focus so much on what we're playing that things slip through the radar. I was like, why didn't they talk about these? So I do want to bring up the Oblivion remaster. That was kind of shadow dropped by Bethesda. There was a lot of leaks. People realized that this was going to be a thing. We didn't
yeah, a
really have
few
a
days
clear
ahead of
idea.
time.
Yeah, we weren't really clear like when that was going to be happening, but then like literally like you said 5 days later they did their little announcement and like it's available now. And it's like, "Oh, well that's very Bethesda to remaster an old game and people for some reason people get excited about it." I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Obviously, Oblivion could use the glow up. But like, literally we're just coming out of an era of making fun of Bethesda for remaking Skyrim, and now they remade Oblivion. Everybody fucking loves them again. It's like I don't really get it, honestly. Um, I mean, I liked Oblivion when I played it way back when, but I don't really have much of an interest in revisiting it. You know.
Sure.
Um, I mean, again, I don't game like I used to. I'm a different person now. I prefer more contained experiences when I'm not like sitting down and like planning to do like a big gaming session. It's hard to want to include any sort of open world in my roster.
hmm
Um, and then also the fucking French RPG, the one I was making fun of in the previous.
Expedition 33.
Yeah, that one. The Claire Obscure Expedition 33, the world's most French RPG. It's doing numbers. People are loving that game. And you know
Yeah.
what? I respect it. I respect it. There's people who are saying, "Oh, now that Grand Theft Auto 6 has been delayed to next year, uh this might be a contender for game of the year." And I'm like, "Wow, you guys really liking that French RPG." And like again, every time I look at someone playing it, it's like literally they're wearing like mime clothes. And I'm like, "What? This is really French, guys." And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just like, is that the whole of the flavor here? And I wouldn't be able to tell you whether it is or isn't because I'm not playing the game. And again, I have to pick and choose what fits into my time slot for playing video games nowadays. So I don't know if I'll be able to fit Claire Obscure Expedition 33 into my dossier for the year. I
Yeah.
don't know. What
I
about
I
you?
remember seeing the look of that game and thinking it looked so cool, but it's going to be a 100-hour RPG, so I'm not going to touch it.
So you thought it looked
But
cool too.
I did. But I've also heard from a few people and a few podcasts that it is absolutely excellent. The combat and stuff is actually way more engaging than you might get out of most turn-based RPGs. And apparently it's only like 30 or 40 hours, which actually sounds like doable.
Hmm. It's like a
Uh so I don't know that I'm going to get to it anytime soon, but it is at least on my list as a maybe I try to find time for it before the year is over.
That's fair. I mean, one of us has to. Okay. And I know that if I am the one to do it, then I'm just going to be focusing on how French it is. So it might be better if you handle that one.
Oh, I see, I see.
What else? Did you see the Elena stuff for Street Fighter?
I did. She is gonna have healing.
Okay. So I don't know if she's actually going to have healing or if that was just a troll. But I think that if she is going to have healing, it's going to be a fixed part of her level 3. And I'm pretty sure that it's not going to be a lot. I
And
don't know.
whatever they do with it,
They
I
know what they're
think
doing.
Capcom probably learned their lesson from what happened
Yes.
with Elena in 4. Because
Yes,
she had
exactly.
healing in 3 and it wasn't that big a deal.
No, it wasn't.
But
But in
it really
4,
didn't work in 4.
and she was at the very end of like that game's life, and she just kind of took over. She
Yeah,
moved in at the last second. Is like, this is my game now. And I was like, all right, Elena, as you wish. But yeah, they literally saved that part of her trailer to the very end, like literally as like a post credit style thing. And
yep.
so I'm pretty sure they know what they're referencing when they do that. So
hmm
I'll take it in good faith. Have you been playing any Street Fighter?
I really haven't. I have paid
Oh,
attention to some of like the events and stuff that have happened recently.
sure, sure.
Um, like Capcom Cup, they did their big one. And one of the things that was so weird was usually right after Capcom Cup is when they give the new character announcement and like, hey, this is going to be the next update for our next season of balance changes. And that stuff all got delayed because they're putting all of that out with the Switch 2 release.
Yeah, yeah.
So, kind of a weird thing. Um, what I have been doing fighting game related, arguably, is I've been watching the Guilty Gear Strive anime all about Unica, the new character coming to that game soon.
I mean, you'd be the one to be able to talk about that. I don't really have. Like you say that name, I'm like, it probably looks like a Guilty Gear character.
It
Probably
is. It very
crazy
much does.
design.
Apparently, she's another child of Dizzy and Kai Kisk, if that means anything to you. So, a half gear
Right, right.
Sin's sister, technically, I guess.
Technically.
I don't know.
And there's an
The anime
anime for
is
this.
not particularly good. But if you've
Oh,
watched
oh
if
no.
you've watched the story, and I do say watched because you don't play the story in the Guilty Gear games,
Okay,
those things are
I
not
pulled up.
exactly incredible either, but they are fun and crazy and basically anime. The show feels about on par with that stuff, so there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I just pulled up a picture of the character. Looking very Gurren Lagann.
Hmm.
Alright, well, whatever. It's not a Guilty Gear character. I don't know what to say about that, Neil. It
That's
certainly
okay.
is a design.
It is. It is.
Look like an owl boy situation. I don't know. Okay, so there's stuff going on in fighting games, obviously. With the Switch 2 around the corner, people are talking about Smash Bros, and I don't think that Sakurai got the energy for that quite yet. And it was funny because like when they released Smash Bros Ultimate, like I pointed out, like it's called Ultimate. Ultimate means last. Like they'd have to do something different with Smash Bros, right? Because I don't think they're going to be able to pull all the licensing stunts that they did for this last one. They'd have to focus
Yeah.
more on something else.
Ultimate getting everybody that had been in any of the games again and more
And then
really puts you
two
in a tricky
DLC
situation.
passes. It's 10 additional characters on top. And, to be fair, there was definitely still characters that people wanted to see
Hmm.
in a Smash Bros, but I think that it would be hard to be disappointed to any length of the definition with what happened with Ultimate. Um, so I mean, it spells kind of a weird, kind of bleak future for Smash Bros. If I'm being honest. But I think that if it's gonna get announced for the Switch 2, it's gonna probably be announced pretty quick here. Um, so I mean, I've been hearing whispers of people saying, "Oh, there's definitely gonna be something happening like around the same time that it's gonna hit shelves." And I was like, "It's not gonna hit shelves. There's not gonna be enough units to hit shelves, guys." But I mean, you know what they mean.
So here's a question. Last time I believe we talked about, hey, pre-orders and stuff getting delayed at the very
Canceled.
least.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But a little earlier this week, I think, is when they started taking pre-orders again. Did you attempt to
I
get
think
one?
I think it was last week. It was at the end of last month, for
Oh, okay,
sure.
okay,
I heard that they were doing it and that it was going to be opening at midnight, blah blah blah. And I was like, I'll hold off.
okay.
Like I can live without Switch 2 for a while, and if it convinces me later on, then there you go. But
Mhm,
right
mhm.
now, I don't think that it's something that I want to spend a ton of money on. But you know what? I do think that whatever stock they have is going to sell. So
Definitely.
I don't I don't think they're going to be suffering at all. I just think that maybe the people who buy them might be suffering, depending on what else they come up with in the first few months to actually build out that library.
Well, from what I hear about the uh pre-order process, there might have been a little extra fervor due to people being worried that the price of it is just going to keep going up if they don't get it right away.
Yeah, whatever. If it keeps
Uh,
going up, then I'm going to be
which,
less interested.
yeah, like I get it, but also,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
Listen,
Any
I have my
other?
new GPU in my computer.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lion's share of games that I want to play, I'll be able to play. I'm not worried
Same,
about that.
same. So what have you been playing on that computer?
Oh, everything that pushes all of the teraflops that my graphics card is capable of, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Games like Nubby's Number Factory.
Yep, yep. Gotta make sure you have high graphics for all those numbers.
Right. I mean, you're gonna need like GPU processing done on separate cores in order to handle the sheer amount of numbers that you're gonna be making in the factory. So I don't know if you've seen Nubby's Number Factory.
No,
Okay. Well, it's very Windows 95 coded in terms of how it looks. Like, have you seen Baldi's Basics with like
no.
the pre-rendered like very like 50 polygon CG at like
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
14 frames per second? Like, oh, watch this cube rotate, and that was an
Mm-hmm.
amazing thing back then. That's the style of graphics you're kind of looking at for Nubby's Number Factory. Um, and then the kind of game that it is, it's a Peggle like.
Oh, okay.
Um, but it's a rogue like Peggle like, but not like Peglin because it's more Balatro coded in that you have certain goals that you have to hit, and then if you surpass those goals, like then you get additional like goals that you can hit cumulatively. So let's say that your goal is like at the very beginning it's like 16 points. So you bounce off like pegs that total up to 16 points. And it's like you cleared the goal, and then your little ball keeps bouncing. Your little nubby, it's the mascot, and you hit like 32, and it's like you got the next goal, and then it gives you a life, and then it refills the board, and then you get an additional gold that you can spend in the shop. And so the idea is like very early on, you want to set yourself up to break multiple goals at once.
Okay.
And again, like Balatro has kind of redefined a lot of like of these little roguelite experiences that are kind of chasing that sort of formula. It's like, okay, it's just about getting the big numbers as quickly as possible and then kind of just crushing the game. And Nubby's Number Factory is exactly that. You got prestige, you got your challenges, you got all the, the bread and butter stuff that you would come to expect from a game like this, all wrapped up in the aesthetic of Windows 95 pre-rendered CG at a glorious 16 frames per second. Um, but yeah, it plays great on the Steam Deck. First played it on the Steam Deck. I was like, this is really fun. I'm just gonna drop it on the old PC and play it on there too. And I get a breather. But yeah, you get little items, artifacts that go into your what equate to your Joker slots, and you can move them around and they interact differently with different perks and whatever. It's fun. It's a fun game, Neil. Well, I don't know what else there is to say about these style of games anymore, other than they're a good time and you don't have to think too hard. And they boot up real fast and you start real fast. And if you're not playing well, you can restart real fast. And it's just very respectful of my goddamn time. Okay?
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
It may not be French, okay? It might not be French enough for some of you guys who really get into the whole French. I don't know what a French weeaboo is, Neil. What's a French weeaboo?
A Ouiaboo.
Oh, we have spelled Oui.
Yeah.
That's perfect, actually. I think you found the title of the podcast. Um, yeah, no, that's perfect. Okay, it might not be French enough for you weeaboos, but I enjoy it. I will say that's not the only game that I played.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also,
What else you been up
and
to?
I'm gonna apologize, Neil. I'm gonna apologize
Uh-oh.
to you right now. I broke tradition. Okay,
Oh?
but Jackie bought a whole new PlayStation 5 controller,
Uh-huh.
and those things are like $80.
Yeah.
And she got Split Fiction, and she wanted to play Split Fiction. So,
My heart is
I've
broken.
I'm sorry, but here's the thing, I realized as I was going through that first section. So we got through all the first sci-fi section. It's the first section. I
Mm-hmm.
realized that the experience is different enough based on the character that you play that I would not be upset to play through it again,
Oh,
and
okay.
I would be
Are you
happy.
playing the
I would
sci-fi person right now then?
No, I'm playing the older
Shit.
airheaded fantasy lady.
But I'm the sci-fi guy. I love Netrunner.
Well, I think that you'll find that you still get to do those sections. It's just you're doing it as a different character.
I can't believe you've done this. My heart is
No,
broken. I hadn't
listen,
picked the game up yet, but I
listen.
still had it on my plan to play with you this year.
If someone you loved bought an $80 controller in hopes of playing a game
I'm
with you,
not. I'm
what
teasing.
would you do? What would
I'm
you do, Neil?
teasing. If I had someone to play
Mm,
it with in the house with me, I would probably play those games with them too.
and you don't, so you gotta play with me.
Exactly.
All right. Well,
Well, how's Splitfish treating you at the very least?
it's very much one of them's games. It you go and you do your thing, and you sometimes you run ahead of them, and you realize you can't do much, so you hang out, and then they catch up, and then they do something, and they're like, "I'm stuck back here," and they're like, "Oh, let me figure out what I gotta do to help get you forward." It's the same kind of thing, and you know what? That's fine. Listen. It Takes Two did numbers, man. That was an amazing game in terms of how well it sold and how it was received. I don't see a need to change the formula that much. They changed the setting, they brought some nuance to the characters. That it's not parents worried about their kid or trying to figure out their
Mm-hmm.
marriage or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Now it is two, uh, a woman on the cusp of middle age and a girl coming into her own who have their own styles and their own worries, and they manifest in their stories, and they like you can kind of pick up on like what's going on with them, and they're trying to figure each other out and also survive their crazy fan fiction. I played the part where you're a pig. That's very strange. It's I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's a lot of charm to it, and there's also some of the dialogue is a little cringy, but it's what you can expect. Basically, there's some homage to some of the previous games as well, and some homage to games not even in the portfolio of what's his name that I don't remember his name. The fuck the Oscars guy. Yeah,
Mhm.
no,
Mhm.
it's a good game. I'm not upset with it. I think that as far as like moving things to the next level, if you want to use that kind of terminology, I don't know that it did. Nothing is super stand out, but again, don't break what isn't already broken. Don't try and fix I think that's how you say it. Don't fix what's not broken, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, I do have one other question for you, real quick. Not about split fiction, though.
Sure.
Have you finished Thousand Times Resist?
I'm literally up against the ending decision, and I did not make my ending decision yet.
Oh shit! Just because
But
it's a hard decision, or
um, there's a lot that you have to sort out, and
mm,
I needed to take a step away from it in order to like, you know, get a breather and like get my head straight. Because
sure.
there's like the finale, really like a lot is happening, and you have to wrap your head around a lot of different things. But I am comfortable with talking about it now, if you'd like to.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would love to hear some of your developed thoughts about that game.
So Thousand Times Resist is an indie game that is many, many stories. Like the sheer amount of layered stories in this game feels like it shouldn't be able to be cohesive, and yet they did it anyway. We have stories about historical confrontation in China and with Hong Kong. We have stories about diseases in a time where, pandemics are very relevant. We have stories about otherness when being othered is very common. We have stories about alien invasions, but also, allegory for what it means to be from someplace else. Um, and there's just all of these different threads. Like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to not be human? It's just a lot. It's all, and we have a lot of talk about political unrest and sacrifice. And I mean, I know that I throw around the term a lot, but it's kind of a masterclass in writing. And it's not even to say that it's my favorite story, but to look at the whole body of work that it is and not acknowledge the sheer amount of acrobatics that was done to turn it into something that makes sense. It would do it an injustice. So, where to begin? The story revolves around a girl named Iris who is graduating from high school, and she's a first generation Canadian. Like, she came over from Hong Kong to Canada with her parents, following a lot of like the special administrative area unrest stuff, like the umbrella protests. Like, her parents met during these protests, and so after all that happens, like, they feel like they need to flee because they were very active in all of that, and so they moved to Canada. And Iris grows up in Canada, not knowing a ton about like what had happened, other than like what her parents would share.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then there's already like intergenerational stuff because the grandmother like says that the daughter abandoned not just her but the country, right? It's the idea of like, not only were you not supportive of what our government is trying to do, but now you've ran away from your problems. And it creates this like there's a lot of parallels. The idea of like what a sacrifice is and what is actually being sacrificed and what it means to make the sacrifice and how those things tend to repeat themselves, and how like if you truly understand like what you're up against and what it would take to do the things that you need to do, then you're also not going to be happy with it no matter how you do it, but you know that you have to do it. So, you fast forward, basically Iris is the one person for some mysterious reason that is immune to this disease. So the government, or like some uh, government adjacent entity, comes over and they're like, we want to like save the world, and you're the only person who can help us do it. Put a lot of pressure on her. She leaves her family. That's the parallel there, because the family left Hong Kong. She leaves her family, and then she goes into this series of experiments to try and determine like what they can do to get the immunity to other people. And so she goes into this cloning program. I mean, I don't know how like much you want me to spoil here. I don't know. Were you planning on playing it?
No, I'm probably not going to get around to that one.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try not to dwell on this too long because I know that we have limited time. But basically, she uh she makes contact with the aliens who show up and through a miscommunication introduce this virus into our environment, and it starts killing off a lot of people to the point that like over the course of like maybe 20, 30 years, um most of humanity is wiped out. Like what's left are like basically this government entity that's gone underground, and Iris, and the clones that they're making of her. And she's disturbed to find her clones at first, and she does some pretty violent things. And by then she's made contact with the aliens, who are called the Occupants, which is a pretty on the nose name. Um, but the aliens are like these weird, like non-humanoid entities that take humanoid forms because they want to fit in. They want to be looked at as if they were like pretty normal things. But like their language is so different that the things that the humans try to do to interact with them make them interact back in a way that they think is what they want, but it quite obviously isn't. So they introduce this disease. A lot of people die. Um, and so the cloning thing becomes the kind of the backbone of the story that you interact with, because what ends up happening is um, she, after making contact with the occupants, is granted by the occupants when she figures out how to kind of talk with them on their own terms. She's gifted an artifact, and the artifact lets her kill everybody. So she kills all of the people that are left. Literally, she is the only person left. Apparently, she harbored a lot of like anxiety and distaste and trauma from not just the experiments, but like looking at what they were doing to copies of her. And so she's alone for an indeterminable amount of time. Um, but then, she gets lonely enough that she starts making her own clones. And so those are the ancient sisters, quote unquote. And then she turns herself into the all mother, quote unquote. And so, of the ancient sisters, one of them is like they're given colors so that she can tell them apart, and they're given jobs so that they don't like step on each other's toes. They want to have their own domains, and
Sure.
so she gives them jobs. And so the last job that she assigns is called an observer. And I don't know if that's just because she ran out of things to assign, but the observer's job is to just do that, is to watch and keep an eye on things, and I guess report back to her. And the problem was that the observer, uh, she is not liked by all the other sisters for obvious reasons, and she's basically like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and she wants to get along with the other sisters and wants to like play with them. And one day they agree that we'll play, but they play hide and seek. And then through playing hide and seek, they prove that she's not good at being an observer, and that like throws her into this distraught state of like, I don't know like what I am, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And in the process of searching for the other sisters, she happens upon uh Iris's journal. And one of the things I kind of like skipped over is like when Iris was in high school, she had a friend named Zhao. And Zhao, she mistreated Zhao very, very badly, but Zhao was also an expat from China. Now, she wasn't from Hong Kong, so I think that maybe there was some animosity there between Zhao and Iris. But eventually, she comes around, but not at a level that Zhao needs to be met at, right? So, like, in secret, they're friends, but in public, she doesn't really like to hang out with her. And that makes Zhao very upset. And it all culminates in where Zhao runs away after the last day of school, and this is literally the year before the special administrative area agreement for Hong Kong ends. By the way, so this is all happening in the historical context of like
Yeah.
Hong Kong is about to get absorbed by mainland China. Um, so that all goes down, and then like through the journal, the observer finds out that she had this friend named Zhao, and in the journal she finds a hair that belonged to Zhao. And
Oh.
this is where things go to shit. So the one rule that Iris made was that you're not supposed to make clones. Like I'm the only one who's supposed to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
part of that reason is because she has immunity to the disease. And so if she makes a clone, that clone has immunity. Now, if the clone makes another clone, like that's degenerative in terms of the genetics, and it's very unlikely that that clone will also have immunity, right?
Sure.
So that was part of it, but also, you know, she wanted to keep control over the clones as well. And so when the observer, who it feels like observing is not a strong suit for her, finds this, she has the brilliant idea of like, oh, I'm going to make a clone of Zhao because like they were friends, and the All Mother is lonely, and I'm not good at what I'm doing anyway, and maybe this will impress her, and I'll have this other thing that I can do. And so she does, but the clone doesn't turn out good. But she doesn't understand that because she doesn't know what Zhao was really like. But like physically, the clone doesn't turn out good. It horrifies Iris, and so Iris goes berserk and kills everybody again, except for Observer, who is the youngest of the sisters, who she thinks death is too good for. Okay. The other thing I also mentioned is like they're kind of genetically immortal. Like they don't age. They like internally they age, but externally they don't. So this whole time Iris has been looking like her teenage self, right?
This game
And all
sounds
the clones,
fucking crazy.
it is fucking crazy. So so as a punishment to the youngest sister, Observer, uh
Uh-huh.
Iris is like, you're going to stay here by yourself. I'm going to leave. And since you like making clones so much, you're going to make clones until you make the perfect clone. And then that's her punishment. And so she locks Observer away in what is now called the Orchard. It was originally the facility of the government facility that was made for them, but it's played to them as if Iris was the one who made all of that, right? She's modeling herself as a kind of like a god. She doesn't say so much, but it's clear like that's kind of what she wants. She wants the reference. So Iris leaves. Observer is the only one left, and she has to make clones now. And so you fast forward, and that's where the actual game begins.
Yeah,
The
because
actual
you're Watcher, right? Isn't that?
yeah, yes, your
Yeah.
Watcher. So it turns out that because of the genetic immortality, the youngest is still in the facility. You find out much later on that the abandoned original character that was like shunned and punished by the All Mother is actually a very important character that has been guiding you the whole time. And there's a lot of twists and turns, and you basically get framed. And there's this, so the whole section where you are playing Watcher ends, and it ends kind of on a cliffhanger where you don't really know what happens to her. And then you go forward again. And now you're playing as a completely different character in a post orchard in like situation, because basically the whole system of governance that was in place because of the youngest having to serve her punishment gets dissolved. And so you start playing as another character in this world, in this area where everything has changed. And so you're learning about things retroactively because you're talking about them as historical events, and you're getting different perspectives and different ideas about like what was going on there. And you go through, and then you meet up with the characters that survived all that, and you find out about all this like conspiracy shit, and it all weirdly ties together, and the way that it's told requires like a lot of like participation in terms of just like following threads. And that's what makes ludonarrative, right? The idea of ludonarrative is the idea that you experience the story by being a part of it, by playing it. And this is one of those games where you can't really understand it unless you're playing it. Um, and I skipped over a lot of shit.
Yeah, I'm sure
Uh,
you did. Yeah.
if anything sounds remotely interesting about that, I highly suggest spending some time with the game. It is not an action game. There's no fighting. There's like there's no real big action scenes. There's no quick time events. It's very much an investigation game. And that's investigation both in terms of hitting all of the beats that they want you to in terms of objectives that are clearly displayed, as well as doing the detective work to figure out what's actually going on by talking and observing and seeing the different things happening in the world. Um, would it have been game of the year had I played it last year? For me, maybe. It's hard to say. Like I
I
said, I'm up.
That's already putting it real damn high, though.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, this game has been very well received
Yeah.
amongst the people who have played it. Sadly, not been played by a ton of people, but like I said, I am up against like the last kind of big decision that you have to make, and I think that it will sculpt my idea of what the game is, depending on how if that my idea of what needs to be done is appropriate. But it's if you have any interest in both current events and how those might play out in like sci-fi and just like how do you live in a fucked up world, that's kind of like the theme, right?
Hmm.
Like who am I in this fucked up world and what does that mean? Like that's kind of what this game is.
Well, I can definitely say, how can I live in this fucked up world is something that I might be pretty interested in seeing how other people are thinking about.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a very like weird disjointed explanation of what that game is. Again, it's one of those games that requires playing to
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
understand. So, if you don't feel satisfied with my explanation, that's probably by design. Um, and that also makes me feel less pressure to explain it correctly. So, I'm gonna go with that.
Well, the stuff I've been playing is a little bit less intense, I will say, and narrative driven.
But no less cultural, right?
Well, okay, one of them definitely,
Okay.
but I haven't talked much about many of the games I've played in a while, so I'm gonna run down a couple games I played a while ago at this point.
Please
Uh,
do.
Number one, Mortal Shell. It's one of those kind of indie, hey, we like Dark Souls, let's try to make our own take on it games, with this very weird, different mechanic of turning to stone kind of mid any animation as a block slash parry mechanic.
That sounds cool.
It is pretty cool, but it's also a little weird because there is a straight up parry in the game. And that parry seems way more important than the baseline turn to stone thing. And the stone thing isn't exactly a block because it only absorbs one hit and has a weird cooldown. So it's this very like finding the rhythm of the game took me a really long time. And once I got there, it was kind of okay. Uh, and they do some very cool stuff with the structure of your character itself, giving you, I think they call them shells. There's like 4 shells to pick from that have like different stats of, one has high stamina, one has high health, one of them has a bunch of the resource you use to do special moves and stuff.
Okay, but they're
And then you
all
have,
they're all mortal, right?
they're all dead and you're inhabiting their corpses.
Okay.
I don't. I'm not very clear on who or what you are in that game. I'm gonna be perfectly honest.
Oh, okay.
Didn't do a great job of the storytelling for that for me. Um, but you pair that shell with a weapon, and you have to beat some bosses to unlock the weapons, but they're all easy to get to. Um, and so you have four weapons to choose from, four shells, and you kind of are saying, oh, I like high stamina, I like this big slow weapon, that's kind of the build I want to do. And like that part of the game is pretty cool. Uh there's a few bits that are a little bit more frustrating about it though. You can only really change the weapons at like the main camp in the middle of the game. But you have to go and veer off into the different spokes to get to the bosses in order to progress through the game. So if you want to change weapons, you can't really do that once you're out in one of these dungeons, which
Oh,
is kind of annoying.
so you're committed.
Yeah. Um, and there's a couple other things about the game that are just a little bit like interesting, but not fully implemented well with the way that they do their ability unlocks and stuff. You have like two different resources. One of them's kind of a generic tar, I think is what they called it. And the other one is glimpse. And glimpse is only gained on a per shell basis. So you need both of these to do upgrades, but you have to be playing with the shell to get it the upgrades with the glimpse, even if you have a ton of tar. And it's like, it puts you in this weird situation where it's like, I don't like using the shell, but I want to unlock better stuff for it, so maybe I will like it, but I don't want to play
Yeah,
it to get there.
right, right. It's the idea of like this kind of sucks to actually use, but it might not suck if I level it up, but I
Yeah,
can't level up another way, but experiencing how much it sucks without leveling it up.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, the only other real thing I have to comment on is I mentioned the game kind of has spokes, so to speak. You're kind of running off into these three different areas and getting to the boss there to get the item you need.
Sure.
Um, and then you return through like a different version of the world you just traveled through to get the thing you got back. Um, one of those three spokes you have to do is like two or three times as long as the other ones with the same number of checkpoints as the other ones.
Oh no.
And so like there's a bit of like just real unevenness with like what the game is asking out of you for progress to like feel like you're making progression in some spots that it's just a little bit like did someone just like forget to put a checkpoint here or something, like what is going on.
Hmm.
um but overall I had a enough time with it. It's a weird
I mean,
game.
in the in the different iterations on the Dark Souls style, how unique would you call this?
Let's go with like a let's give it a 3 out of 5 for uniqueness.
Okay.
Like
Where
they
would
made some interesting choices, just some of the choices are not great. Is unfortunately the rub of it.
I wasn't asking good or bad. I was just asking
That's
unique.
fair. That's fair. Um, another one of those games I got through is another shorter title called Pepper Grinder. This is a game that is a 2D platformer that came out,
The drill
I think,
one.
last year and looked really cool, but I just never got
The
around to last year.
it's the drill one, right?
It's the drill one. It's all about using that drill to kind of go through sand or rock or whatever, uh, and that's kind of your main mobility. You're getting extra high jumps by bursting out of the ground. You're doing weird platforming where you're hanging out over pits on stuff you can't stand on, but you can drill through. And then you're getting various hook shots and uh, grappling points and stuff like that as you just go through a bunch of levels. They give you different mods for your drill at various points, like a gun mod and a like driving a mech mod. Uh, it's
Okay,
really
that's a
cute.
mod. Sounds like a
Uh,
whole different machine.
I don't know how else to describe it, but basically you plug your drill into things and it changes the gameplay on some levels.
Okay.
Um, I do wish there's like one or two little things that I feel like they just are in the game and are very cool, but they didn't really use. The main one being you can like kind of skip along the top of water. It's really cool, and they didn't really use it in any level. Like, there's no requirement to do it at any point in a way that is like, well, that's too bad. I would have liked a couple more levels where maybe you explored one of those other mobility things you put in the game,
Hmm.
but never really did anything with. But it's a fun, cute game. I'm glad I played it. It's only like 4 worlds long, so it only took me, I think, 5-ish hours to basically do everything I wanted in it. Um,
So it could be a one sitting game, is what you're saying.
yeah, if you're not like trying to get all the extra coins or whatever in every level, then you could probably do this in a single sitting if you really wanted to.
Okay.
But as far as you were hinting at with one that has maybe a little more culture to it,
A little
I've
more
been playing South of
depth.
Midnight.
Yeah.
This game is the new
That was
game
a
by
game.
Compulsion Games, which are the people that were behind We Happy Few. This game is
So
very much not We Happy Few.
that's good.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. So just for me to interject,
Hmm.
this was shown alongside Clear Obscure Expedition 33, like in a lot of the Sony showcases or whatever. And this is the one I was like, oh, that looks like I would play that,
Yeah,
as opposed to the French RPG.
yeah.
So what do you think? Tell me about it.
I actually have been really, really, really positive on this game.
Ooh.
The gameplay itself isn't like some incredible thing. In a lot of ways, it kind of feels like a game plucked out of time, and then given a modern coat of paint.
Okay.
Uh, I would say in a lot of ways, this feels kind of like a like early PlayStation 3 game or something.
Okay. It's not
Uh,
necessarily a bad thing.
no, no, but just as far as like the way the mechanics and stuff are working in this game, what it is asking out of you, feels a little more dated in that way. But I'm having a absolutely wonderful time with it. Um, there's a lot of things about it that you can kind of look at Kenna Bridge of Spirits and be like, oh, you're running into arenas to do fights, and when you're done with the fight, you clear the poisonous stuff around, and that fight doesn't really exist anymore. And like that's very much something that was going on in Kenna, very much happening here. The biggest differences are the way storytelling is being implemented, and it's not a like more Zelda style game like Kenna. It is much more like level based, and when you beat a level, you are moving on to the next level.
It's like a Sly
And
Cooper situation.
yeah, more narratively driven in that way. But speaking of narratively driven, that is a big part of what I think this game is really succeeding in. Um, you end up as a young woman still living with their mom in the South. I think it's Mississippi. I can't remember for sure if that's confirmed at any point, but I think it's supposed to be in Mississippi. And there's a big storm happening at the beginning of the game, and you go to check on some of your neighbors, and your house with your mom in it gets swept down the storming, flooding river. And as you go to chase it, you realize, oh shit, you might have some magical powers. Tell me if you've heard this kind of a setup before.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad that was very convenient to learn about your magical powers in such a terrible situation.
Totally. But once you get these magical powers, the game really dives into trying to explore, uh, I guess, like myths and
Folklore.
folklore. Yes, exactly. And specifically a lot of folklore from the American South, which, having been a West Coast born person, I'm frankly not that familiar with a lot of it. Uh, but there's a lot that really feels like they were paying attention and wanted to do right by the folklore and stuff that they are pulling from to make this game, and they are doing it in a fashion that has just really hit the right way for me when it comes to the way the music punctuates and brings life and vibes into this game in a way that I find like wildly effective. The general gameplay loop being just kind of a fun little rompy adventure with some fun movement mechanics on top of it, and all of those movement mechanics are punctuated with this like wispy voice that you can hear of the like threads of the world that you are able to manipulate with your magic, like calling to you as you do this stuff. And everything you do with that magic has this little whispery thing that kind of backtracks in a way that like just feels really good and like part of the world. I'm shocked at how well I think they are pulling off pretty much every piece of it outside of the like the mechanical combat is nothing super exciting.
Mm. Well, I mean that's really good to hear because like when you're dealing with new media like video games, sometimes it can be incredibly impressionable on people. Like nowadays when I think of like the Greek gods, I imagine the characters from Hades, you know? So like I'm not reaching to like classical architecture statues and relief carvings as like my understanding of what the Greek gods were like. You know, I'm literally using this way more modern interpretation, and that's kind of how I see things. So when you take something like the folklore of the South and you turn that into a video game, you want people to take it as seriously and faithfully as possible because that might be what people look at for what they imagine these folklore, these entities and stories to actually be. So there is kind of a responsibility when you're dealing with cultural stuff, like cultural heritage. And I'm really glad to hear that they handled that well, at least based on your own
Yeah.
interpretation.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it, and I've seen at least in a few other places people responding really positively to it as well, and being really happy to see and hear that.
That's cool.
I like I really gotta put it out there though, like holy shit, a bunch of the music in this game is fucking incredible. Like
Okay.
absolutely incredible music.
Would you say it's very of its aesthetic, like the cohesiveness to like the visuals and what
Yeah,
it's trying to
totally.
portray? Okay.
And it is the use of it is part of the best stuff. One of the earlier parts where like I really was like I was having a good time with this game the first night I played it. But towards the end of the stream, I did a section where I think it's like chapter 3 or 4, where you're kind of like getting the rest of your powers and kind of learning like where the game really is going to be going and like how it's kind of structured. Uh, where you find out all this stuff about the history of Benji and the trauma and stuff and how they turned into this tree basically. And the last section is climbing that tree and like the soundtrack with it where it's like singing about the story you just learned about uh as you climb up this tree, and just the way it is like hitting is so fucking good. I was blown away and was just like I think this game might be great, and it has continued to be great for the next 6 or so hours I've put into it, and I'm not even done yet. So
Oh shit. I might have to play this game.
I've really enjoyed it.
You know how
Um,
much music is meaningful to me when I play my games, Neil.
yeah, it's hitting really well for me. Um,
Okay.
but those are all the games I'm going to talk about for today. I'm glad we got to get some of these games off, and I'm glad I could end on a positive note.
Yeah, I know. What a concept.
I
You might
know,
even have people still listening because of that.
rare for me. I know.
Oh boy.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. I hope you have a wonderful, let's say,
Cinco de
week.
Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, we're recording this on Cinco de Mayo's Eve.
Yeah, I guess
So,
that's true. Hopefully, y'all get to hear it pretty soon too.
yeah, I'm gonna try not to drag my heels on this.
No
And if I
worries, no
did, then you'll know because I just said what day we
worries.
recorded.
Audio Games is hosted and produced by Matthew Lane and Neil Jimenez. Our theme music is Recharging by Gooset. If you'd like to reach out to us, please email us at audiogamespodcast@gmail.com. I haven't been playing as much as I wanted to, honestly, just because I've been so fucking net runnering out right now.
Oh, really?
So
In person?
a little bit in person. I went to a tournament and I played with a couple people the other day. But the big thing is because I don't know if you know about this. Netrunner just released its newest set, and it is the rotation that is making it so that everything released is something you can actually purchase again. Because
Oh.
it's all null signal game stuff now instead of Fantasy Flight games.
Oh.
So this is like the kind of big turning point, so to speak. Uh, and so it's been very exciting to be like, oh, new cards and like new rotation, new meta, like everything is changing.
Everything is fresh again.
Yeah. So I've been that literally came out like a week and a half ago. So I've been thinking about and playing a lot of Netrunner instead of video games over the last week.
Oh, that sounds terrible. I'm sorry.
It's wonderful. I love it. You should play Netrunner with me.
Oh my god.